Who would have thought? Hey, everybody, Capt Ron here with First Officer Dieter Staudinger, back once again. Geez, it seems like we just did this. Holy cow. I don't advise getting older for a lot of reasons, but one of them is the weeks seem to go flying by. So anyway, welcome to Fearless Flight Live. This is our weekly live show for people who are afraid to fly, people who know somebody, and people who just like to talk about the airline industry. So here we go. Let's put it into motion here. I'm going to share my screen with any luck.
We've got a lot to share this week, so
We do.
this should be a great show.
Okay, and okay, I think we're good. So once again, welcome. This is our weekly Fearless Flight Live Facebook show. We love talking to you. We love, you know what? I'm gonna open a question right out in a minute. I mean, and if Dieter can maybe help me repeat it. We tried for a while. We tried a format where we could actually have live call-in, people call in. And as we get more and more people, it's kind of intimidating, you know, when you see you're the only one watching, or you don't know how many people are watching. But we're going to do that. So if you'd like to have the ability to ask your questions live, and we'd like to know that, because then we could get more like a podcast format, and I think it would be more interesting for people out there. I know it would be more interesting than listening to me all the time, for sure. So the question is, would you like to have the ability to call in live? If you would, just put a comment in there, and we would appreciate it. So, birds of a feather, that's our longstanding theme or private group here on Facebook. It's for people like you who are in various stages of overcoming their flight anxiety. Join if you're not already a member. You can see the link up there, and leave a comment. Let us know you're alive, and take a look and just snoop around in there. You'll find some great comments from people, and lots of love and people helping each other. So tonight, lots to talk about. We're going to mention, of course, the 101 class coming up in LA again at the Air Hollywood Studios on May 10th. And then we've got the Clear for Takeoff 301 graduation flight on May 31st. So we're going to feed people from the classes at Air Hollywood. We're also going to feed people from the classes, the 101 class here in Phoenix. So if you've ever had any desire and you live, or you'll be in Phoenix or the LA area on May 31st, please keep your eyes out and take a look at how you can come and participate in our graduation flight. Tonight, I did a little piece on understanding aviation incidents and flight anxiety. You'll notice all the aviation stuff in the news, right? Not. Yeah. Why is that? Well, because for a variety of reasons, we're going to talk about that. And why does it drop out of view? We'll highlight the 101 in-person and online courses. We'll talk about the upcoming classes and why you should consider attending those, other than the fact that they're free. And the 101 Air Hollywood, as I said, May 10th. And then, of course, any questions you have, Dieter will be monitoring the chat and the remarks in Facebook there. So real quickly, this Saturday, May 3rd, 2025 at 6 p.m., we're going to have the 101 here in Phoenix. And on Monday, the day following that, it's always the class in Phoenix is always the first Saturday of the month. And then the online class the following morning is always the first Saturday after the first, or the first Sunday after the first Saturday. So don't just disregard that. Just go online here to the link and you can see them both there, and you can register if you want. And of course, here's the link for the May 10th class at Air Hollywood. And here are the links if you want to join us on the 301 class, either from Phoenix or from LA over there. So let's talk a little bit about this whole thing about aviation incidents and accidents. And let's talk about what really trips your trigger, okay? It's easy to think that a scary headline, or fire images, like fire coming out of an engine, like happened last week on Delta. And when we hear about a midair collision or see footage of an engine fire, it starts your heart to pumping, right? But the truth is, those are just the sparks. The real fuel for anxiety lies deeper. It's not the incident itself. It's what it represents to us. You've heard me say, it's not what happens to you in life. It's about the story that you tell yourself what happened. And what happens for fearful flyers is a loss of control. It's a reminder that we're vulnerable. It's a story that your brain rushes to fill in with catastrophe. And we thrive on catastrophe, especially when we get anxious. So the little snippet I'm going to present to you tonight isn't about convincing you that accidents never happen, because they do. It's about understanding why those rare events convince you or seem so real and personal, and why they trip the trigger in people who are already carrying the weight of flight anxiety. So we're going to unpack that connection, and you'll begin to loosen, your fear will begin to loosen its grip on you. Not by pretending that danger doesn't exist, but by understanding that what you're doing is reacting to something far older and deeper in you, something that your ancestors gave you, and more emotional than the news itself. Why do incidents make the headlines? The fact that they make the headlines, like the Delta engine fire and the midair collision, the two that I picked tonight, are, again, we're not saying that they're not serious, because they are, but they have to be viewed in a broader context. Okay. And we're going to look at that context a little bit. On last week, I believe it was, Delta had an engine fire. And this is what actually happened. It was flight 1213. It was an Airbus A330. So it was a wide body airplane, one with two aisles. And it was preparing for takeoff from Orlando, and it was going to Atlanta. They had an engine fire during the pushback from the gate. So they didn't make it out onto the takeoff roll yet. The flames were visible. I can't remember whether it was day or night, but when you have a flame shooting out of an engine, it's quite visible. And it prompted an immediate emergency evacuation using those inflatable slides. And why would they want to do that? Because when we have fire, we want to get everybody off as soon as possible. And what's remarkable and really important to emphasize in context is everyone got out of that thing safely. No injuries, which is altogether unheard of, because usually somebody sprains an ankle or something when they go down the slides. And that's because the emergency crews responded within minutes, both the ground crew, the fire engines, and the crew on board. The fire never escalated into an airborne emergency, of course. And this situation, while it was dramatic to look at, it was handled exactly as designed in all of the ops procedures that the crews had practiced. So the pilots, flight attendants, and emergency responders work together seamlessly to get everybody off of that. Okay, so it does make the news, but it doesn't linger in the news. Okay, what did make the news was the midair collision in Washington, D.C. If you recall, it involved a helicopter and a regional jet landing at Reagan National in there. And why didn't this get the same media attention as the midair collision? Well, let's look at the outcome and the severity. The midair collision, of course, resulted in 67 fatalities, everybody on board. So your mind's eye immediately pictures that. And more often, it doesn't picture the details of the people on board. What it does is it makes you imagine what you would be going through had you been on that airplane. Okay. And in contrast to the Delta incident, which had 0 injuries. So the media tends to prioritize tragedies with loss of life, particularly when civilians are involved. My brother's in the medium, and I don't know if Dieter's heard this either, but if it bleeds, it leads.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that one.
Yeah, so that's why it's going to make the news, and you all know that on some level. But it doesn't. Nothing garners your attention more if you have flight anxiety than something that involves an airplane. So another contrast: the dramatic versus contained. A fire on the ground, while frightening, is a contained emergency. It's one where the evacuation succeeded, and there wasn't any surrounding drama associated with it. Midair collisions, on the other hand, are chaotic. Even though they're rare, they're perceived as catastrophic failures. And this is a narrative that the media is going to find much more interesting and compelling. The visual impact and the fear amplification. The image of an airline in flames is undeniably shocking, and in some outlets shared that view. But the lack of escalation or broader danger made it less newsworthy, if you will. Again, they get the fire out. There's no news here. In contrast, when we had the midair over the Capitol involving a military helicopter and an airliner, it stoked fear of a system-wide vulnerability because we could anticipate or we could imagine things like that happening elsewhere. And success stories don't sell. It's never as interesting to see when everybody gets out of an airplane successfully than it is when there's fatalities. You may or may not remember, probably 30 plus years ago, there was I think it was an A330. It was a big airplane that was landing in Toronto. Dieter, I don't know if you were even there, Dieter, when that happened, but it landed long. It had a tailwind. There were some thunderstorms in the area, and the pilots landed with too much of a tailwind. They touched down long. They went off the end of the runway down through a gully and a ditch.
Yeah. And the
entire airplane was destroyed, but almost 300 passengers got out alive. And again, it was out of the news in 2 days. Nothing about it. Nothing about it. So from a media psychology standpoint, bad news grabs attention. A story where everyone lives and no one is hurt, it's not so interesting.
You heard, Ron, have you heard the saying, shake the amygdala like an almond tree?
No, that's good though. That's because amygdala does mean.
Yeah, that's the thing that reacts when you're reading the headlines and
exactly
it's like an almond. So it's like
exactly. So the stuff that makes the news is stuff of clickbait. It doesn't spark the same emotional or fear-based engagement. Okay, so we want to reassure you with some hard statistics, and that's what you want to do. You want to look at the facts and emphasize that despite the news coverage, flying is the safest way to travel. Take a look at this. 406 million flights in 2024, only 12 fatalities for the whole year. That listed a crash rate of 1 per 58 million flights. Look at that. And we can't even process that. And the 2025 accident rate, believe it or not, is down from 2024. But what did everybody think a couple of months ago? They thought, oh, there you go. And our minds are naturally wired to look for patterns to protect us. And again, we got that from our ancestors. Do they cause anxiety? I get that a lot of times. Whenever, like when we had the mid-air collision, I started to get calls from not only fearful flyers, but from the media. And what they wanted to know, does this make people afraid to fly? It doesn't usually create fear in people without prior anxiety. Focus on, and so what we want to do is focus on how pre-existing phobias are activated. They're not caused. So your fears don't have their origins in incidents that make the media. They are just triggered by it. Okay, confirmation bias, fuel for fear. We touch on this often. If I believe that flying is inherently dangerous, then when I hear something that involves an error or a misstep in aviation, I'm going to immediately say to myself, see, I told you it was dangerous to fly. Okay. And confirmation bias really applies to fearful flyers. So we want to challenge these patterns and focus based on factual data. So because we do seek evidence to confirm our fears, and incidents become proof that flying is unsafe. So safe flights go unnoticed. And then the media's role in that. We've touched on it a little bit, but the media exposure distorts reality. Sensational health headlines spread quickly, and videos, photos, always, you know what sells is or keeps you on the internet is all these videos and TikTok and all that. You can just see where video has completely affected our domination with the internet. And rare events feel frequent when you see them in a video. So there's healthy ways that we'd like to talk about to consume aviation-related news, and that is to stick to credible sources and avoid obsessing over things. So Dieter and I have advertised this time and again. When you have a story or something you see in the news, if you can, run it by us. Send us the link that you found in that, and we'll do our best to expose or take a look at it and validate whether it's something to worry about or not. Okay, so What are some key takeaways about this? Well, flying is safer than ever. It's never been safer than it is, despite the incidents and the accident, the mid-air collision this year. But it doesn't seem like that in the aftermath of a serious incident that makes the news. And just because you have an isolated event, it doesn't equal a trend. And remember, the way that our brain evolved was to look for patterns in our environment. So we try to immediately equate those isolated events with trends and try to use confirmation bias to support the fact that they're trending, if you will. And I've never said to anybody, nor has Dieter, that your anxiety is not real. It is very real. The feelings are real, but it is manageable. And the way you manage it is to back things up with facts and learn how to respond to all these things in a much more measured way, much more mindfully. Awareness helps you regain control. Awareness leads to understanding and the reality that you have different choices. And once you know that you have more choices, you can truly change the way you behave. And we want to invite you to explore the tools like the Fearless Flight Harmonizer or guided coaching. I had a woman just today. She's down in Ecuador. She's actually an expat from the United States. She lives in Ecuador, and she had to make a flight down to Lima, both high altitude airports. And she had a really bumpy flight years ago, and that made it really, really difficult for her to fly. But she wrote me back today very thoughtfully and said, you know what? Without the harmonizer, it would have been an altogether more difficult flight to make. And of course, we love hearing about that. And we love the fact that she shared with us. So we love your feedback. Okay, just want to talk about the overall essence of what I presented tonight. The core concept is that you as a fearful flyer are not just afraid of flying. What you're afraid of is feeling afraid. And triggers, whether they be turbulence or takeoff or a news story about a plane fire, and they can prompt your anxiety. What most of you are really worried about and what you dread most is the feeling of panic, the fear that you won't be able to escape or endure that emotion midair. I've over the years, I've seen this transition to where a majority of people now, it's not that they aren't worried about some underlying problem, mechanical problem, but the surface and the deeper related fears that they have is that they won't be able to endure that panic, particularly once the airplane pushes back and gets into the air. So you have a sense that the emotional intensity will overwhelm them. And that's because of the biology that you feel that triggers that. You worry about losing control, embarrassing yourselves, or being unable to calm down. And what this is it's called fear of fear. And often it's more distressing than any external event that you can imagine. So that's the bottom line to the presentation tonight. And what you've got to do is you've got to use the tools and strategies and techniques that we and others offer to change your response to these events that are out there and happen all the time. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit more about the 101 class. What is the 101 class? And of course, the next one, if you're in the Phoenix area here, is this coming Saturday night. We'll start at 6 p.m. and it will end at 8 p.m. And we'll have the opportunity to sit on a real live Boeing 737 aircraft so that you can start practicing some of your exposure there. And people ask me, what makes Clear for Takeoff 101 different? Well, it was designed by me. And I was first a pilot, and then I got so inspired by helping people like you that I wanted to get a master's certificate. And so I've been a counselor as well. And my first officer, Dieter, likewise comes. He doesn't fly yet. We're trying to get him to flap his arms fast enough, but he hasn't get off the ground. But he does have years of experience talking to people about psychological and psychotherapeutic issues. My particular experience, I've been doing this for 37 years. If you'd have told me 37 years ago, I would be doing this today, I'd have said, you're out of your mind. It is the most fulfilling thing that I do. And I love all of you, and I love helping people overcome their anxiety. Uh, I've learned how to combine my aviation education with psychology. And while I love to talk about planes and flying and all that sort of thing, what really helps people is telling them things that they can do to simply relax their attention and move it away from wherever it was hijacked. And we use relatable, proven techniques. Guess where they came from? They came from you all and people like you. It's just been incredible. And so what we like to think that what sets our class apart is the foundation in both aviation expertise and therapeutic tools. It's got a nice balance. And it's not just about learning, it's about transforming how you relate to your fear. Simply knowing what you won't be able to control. You're not going to be able to stop your startle response. So we like to help people do that. And this is the in-person class coming up in Phoenix. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be this Saturday, May 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. down there. You come to the airport, we'll meet outside security. We'll all get escort passes, compliments of Southwest Airlines, and we'll go through that. So it's free for everybody. It's open to all levels of flight anxiety. One of my helpers, a fellow named Jeff Lindquist, will be there as a volunteer. Jeff went for a year. He went every month to our classes, and he's now flying. And so you can tap into Jeff's wisdom and experience as well. And we offer practical strategies to manage your fear, and we help you connect with other people. One of the things that most people comment when they get there is, oh my gosh, I can't believe there's other people here in the class there. So it's held inside Sky Harbor, and we'll keep you safe. Then on Sunday morning, whether you attended on Saturday night or not, on Sunday morning, anybody anywhere can attend my monthly Clear for Takeoff 101 online class. And we do that for an hour. It's another opportunity. The only thing we don't have is the ability to sit live in an airplane. But we talk about the same issues, and we really encourage you to come and join us with that. It's perfect for somebody who can't attend. Let me comment on the time. It starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And like it says, it's great for anybody who can't attend the 101 that we do live at the Phoenix Airport. And it's a great opportunity for everybody if you want to interact with me and ask questions. I really like to use as much of the time as possible to answer people's questions. And like the rest of our programs, it's learn at your own pace and from your own space. Okay, so you can come in your PJs, and you don't have to tell anybody about it. And this is it delivers the same powerful content in a virtual format. We use Zoom that to anybody anywhere at any time. So we really would love to have you. Again, then a quick few notes about the 101 in LA on May 10th. If you live out there, we do that at a Hollywood Air Hollywood Studios. We don't have there. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. This is something I wanted to answer. This question, I get this question a lot. Is do the airlines train the personnel about how to deal with fearful flyers? And I can say pretty confidently, no. Nobody does anything. Now, that's not to say that we don't have flight attendants that end up with empathy and experience over the years of dealing with people that have that. But generally speaking, the airlines don't offer that. They're not trained, they're certainly not trained in emotional support. And you've got to be your own advocate. That's why we recommend that you board early, talk to the pilots, and connect with them. And Fearless Flight helps you bridge this gap with real tools and education so that you can be your own advocate. And this is an important wake-up call for a lot of people. The airlines are focused on safety and logistics, and fearful flyers must take their preparation into your own hands. And Fearless Flight is here to help you with that. So I hope that you'll take advantage of us and let us know how we can support you. All right. And then all of this this activity in April and May is going to culminate for some of you who are lucky enough to be either in Phoenix or in Burbank. And we're going to actually take flight with you. And so I want to go in a little bit of detail about the class. So the first thing is that we're talking about tuition and airfare. And at Fearless Flight, we're totally honored to support you in regaining your confidence and freedom to fly. And as part of the graduation flight, your tuition covers the time and the coaching and the expertise and support you receive from me and Dieter and the rest of the people that we enlist to be on our team. However, and we hate this part, but the tuition doesn't include the cost of your airline ticket for the graduation flight itself. And we understand this can sometimes be confusing, so we want to be completely transparent about this. As soon as I can get Southwest to recognize the value of us flying on their airplanes with people who otherwise might not fly or wouldn't fly as often, and they cover our cost, we're gonna do better with that. But right now they don't do that. And I was just looking the other day over the years, I've probably averaged between $10,000 and $20,000 of additional tickets and revenue to Southwest Airline. Just me, this little old me, just for my own fare and for the classes that we've done and the VIP coaching that I do. So we're trying to get them to recognize that, but we got to make a bigger dent in their armor in order to do that. So just like you, myself, and any team members who join you on board, we have to pay full fare for our own airline tickets and travel expenses. And we're always working on sponsorship, but so far we haven't been able to pull that off. And we don't receive any other support or discounts from Southwest, whom we usually fly, other than buying early. So that's the thing that we really encourage you to do. If you're going to do this, buy your ticket as soon as possible so that you get the cheapest possible fare, because it can vary between a month out and the day before the flight of $100 to $200 sometimes. Okay, so let that be an omen. And of course, we're gonna fly. This is gonna be the first time we're gonna connect the two classes. I'm gonna start in Burbank on the morning of the 31st, fly to Phoenix, pick up our Phoenix-based flyers, go back to Burbank, have a little bit of a celebration there, and then turn around and I'll fly back with the Phoenix folks. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You get to practice your skills on a real commercial flight. Yep, there'll be other people on board, but believe it, it's like having our own little party there. It's just amazing. You won't believe the transformation in people's attitudes just from seeing other people like them on board. You'll be flying with me and the team, and you'll get real confidence by experiencing this success in the air. And that's what most of you need. You need confidence that you can get on the airplane and you won't be overwhelmed by your fear. And that's what this does for people. And it is the next step after the 101. It provides an opportunity to put everything you've learned into action with full live support. So, okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
That I want to address. The question is just simply, is the 101 on May 10th and the 301 on May 31st, are they the same? No. And specifically, we actually recommend, if it's at all possible for you, that you attend the class at the Air Hollywood Studios on May 10th. We're gonna be at an aviation themed movie studio, and you'll have the opportunity to walk through a mock-up, basically a gate area, and then sit inside of a mock-up plane, which we really, if you have that opportunity to come to Phoenix or to come to LA, highly recommend, because the question we always get, will I get triggered? And we say we hope so, because we need that activation so that we can rewire your story with your engagement and not your overwhelm. So that's number one. And then on May 31st, if you showed up on May 10th, it'll be a webinar actually before we fly, the Thursday before we fly. That would be 29th, I guess. Yeah, that would be Thursday the 29th. There will be a webinar for all students, and then we meet at the airport and fly respectively from Burbank to Phoenix and back, and from Phoenix to Burbank and back.
And as Dieter said, you don't have to do the 101, but we highly encourage it. And we have unique opportunities in that Phoenix, you get to go on a live airplane in advance. And in in the LA area, you get to go on a mock-up, which is a very realistic experience. So both of them contribute to get you into that mindset, because after all, that's hard, right? It's hard to sometimes, not hard when you get on the airplane, not hard for real, not hard when you book your flight, but hard sometimes when it's not imminent. So these are really, really great preparatory methods to help trigger you, as Dieter suggested there. So,
And Stephen asked a question: do we need to do anything in prep for the May 10th class in LA? So do you want to speak to that?
just show up.
Exactly. That would have been my
Stay healthy and don't quit.
Yeah,
Don't give up.
exactly.
The hardest part is head up early. We unfortunately our host Talat Kaptan that owns Air Hollywood, he had to move about 20 minutes further north from the Burbank airport. So if you're coming from South LA, it can take you an hour and a half, 2 hours to do that. We did try to time it on a Saturday, so the traffic is a little bit. It can be a little bit less. But if you already live over in the LA area, and Phoenix for that matter, traffic is traffic these days. But no, you don't have to. There's no preparation required. All you got to do is show up, and we'll
One thing, one thing that we do recommend is if you have a flight coming up and you know the person you're flying with, maybe a spouse, a family member, or friend, you can bring one of
Yeah,
them with you to the class on May 10th. So maybe that's something to consider for you. Maybe that doesn't apply to you, but for anybody who's listening, who is thinking about coming to the class, because as Ron and I so often say, it's really hard sometimes for the partners of people who have
yeah.
flight anxiety. And so we actually, include them, because that is really a big part of your experience when you're flying, right? So.
Yeah, people who love you don't know what to do. And oftentimes it takes a bad turn, because sometimes they try to kind of smother you, and that doesn't feel good. And other times they may just mildly shame you, and neither one works out really well. So we're trying to keep relationships intact as well. So we will actually talk to them and give them some strategies and techniques that they can use themselves. So, okay.
And there's one question that Grace asked. She said, I wish I could join. I'm stuck up here in Seattle. I did buy a round trip ticket for next week and plan on getting on the plane for exposure, but will get off before it leaves. Is that
Okay.
okay? Will the staff allow me to leave? And there's a bit of a, when question, when you have to get out. Do you want to talk about that, Ron?
Absolutely, absolutely, Grace. And I encourage people, if we have people that show up and they're reluctant to follow through, and what I emphasize with them is get on the airplane if you can, and about 10 minutes or so, I will notice, I will take responsibility for that. I'll make sure that you get off without any controversy or anything like that. And you simply get up and you tell the flight attendant, the gate agent, and then you go out and you cancel your ticket there. But we highly encourage you to do that, because that exposure is really valuable. And the attitude that I try to have people manifest is not one that I was overwhelmed and I couldn't do it, but one that it just wasn't the right day for me. Okay.
Mhm.
And we've never had anyone who has left the flight before we departed and come back in the future who has not flown the next time they flew. So keep that in mind, and you will preserve the credit that you have for the cost of the ticket. Okay.
There's
So we
one
actually
more.
we do
There's
that.
one
Okay,
more
go ahead.
question from Maggie, and I think it's best we will split it up, and you can talk about the coaching. So Maggie is saying, I'm flying in 2 days, and I live up in North Dakota, and unfortunately, I'm not able to make it to the class. But is there any advice for a terrified flyer? I would love if we had a simulator here. Yeah, that would be cool if we had simulators.
Yeah.
But in the absence of that, So here's the very best thing I would say is schedule a 15-minute free 15-minute coaching call with Ron. If you have 2 days, I'm pretty sure if you look at the link, I'll put it in the chat, that you can find a time to talk to him. But even while you're waiting to talk to him, depending on what your level of terrified is, honestly, the best thing we have for someone like you who has a flight coming up in
Yeah.
1 or 3 days, we have the Fearless Flight kit,
Yeah.
and that is your emergency kit, so to speak, to get on the plane and have a better experience. But at the same time, I would still encourage you to book your 15-minute coaching call. And why is that a good idea, Ron?
Well, it helps you identify at least one or two strategies that you can use before you fly. And I want to emphasize what Dieter said. The Fearless Flight Kit is absolutely the best thing that we have created. And if you have any doubts or you need any encouragement, go into the Birds of a Feather and just put that question out there. Hey, has anybody used the Fearless Flight Kit or the FFK, whatever you want to call it?
Or
And see what they
harmonizer.
say.
A lot of people refer to it
Yeah,
as
a
harmonizer.
lot of people know the harmonizer. So just say what, has anybody ever used this thing called the harmonizer? And get some support from other people there. And you'll find that people like Karen or Kathy, who flew today, it's just the best thing for a lot of people. It keeps you distracted, which is one of the strategies that we use. Because if you're not thinking about whatever it is that hijack your attention, if you can get your attention back, it's like doing anything else that you do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Peter?
No, I think we got them all covered here.
Okay, so let me just say in closing here that fear doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. And like every human emotion, it can be understood, it can be managed, and it can even be transformed. And flying may always bring some discomfort, but it no longer has to bring a sense of defeat and overwhelm. And tonight you've seen the truth. Aviation is safe. Your fear has a voice, but not a vote. And every time you choose to take your seat and breathe through discomfort, you're not just going somewhere, you're becoming someone stronger. And flight by flight, you are reclaiming your freedom with grace and wisdom. So we want to wish you a happy week and wish you great flights, blue skies, and all that stuff that goes with that. And if we can be of any support to you, don't hesitate to come back. And so on behalf of Dieter and myself, thanks for joining us this evening, and we'll see you next week.